automation is great. If you can set it and forget it, we want to do that with as many things as possible. The bad part about that is that it comes sometimes at the expense of relationship building. So you set so many things up to automatically happen that you're not there and talking and having engagement with your clients. So there's got to be a way to kind of bridge that gap. And the next company is one that actually I think is really great about doing that. I would love to welcome to the stage the VP of Marketing for BombBomb, Ethan Beute.
All right. It's great to be here. I'm going to open with a handful of questions for you, just 3. They're really easy, I promise, so when you have your answer, just go ahead and say it. In terms of connecting and communicating with the people who matter most to you and your business every day, these could be prospects, clients, it could be team members, it could be recruits, they could be real estate agents, they could be loan officers, they could be investors. They could be co-founders, they could be your leadership team, of course they could be family members and friends. All these people who are directly and indirectly responsible for your success every day. In terms of connecting and communicating with these people, are you more effective in a typed out text email, or are you more effective if you get them on the phone? Phone. Almost everyone says that. And it's because it's voice and tone and all of these things that add a little bit more value to that piece of communication. Same question, different choices. Are you better on the phone or are you better in person? In person, we're all better in person because it's a much richer piece of communication. We have face, we have body language, we have posture. We have all this rich nonverbal communication that our brains are wired to receive from one another. We're fellow human beings, we're social creatures, and we're better in person. And so it's important to think, how often are we doing it? We're generally not doing it as often as we need or want to. And so, final question, yes or no, if you got face-to-face with more people more often, would you create and win more opportunities? Yeah, so this is a really valuable and important thing to overcome, and we'll get into why that is, and we'll get into a couple ways that you can rehumanize your day-to-day communication so you're not exclusively relying on bots, you're not exclusively relying on plain typed out text, you're not exclusively relying on automations. There are a couple ways we can do this. And some of what I'm going to share with you here over the next 12 minutes or so is informed and inspired by a really great opinion piece I read in the New York Times called "The Epidemic of Facelessness." And in it, the writer, Stephen March, walked through a litany of monstrous behavior performed by people hiding behind that cloak of digital anonymity, right? That we can get away with things online that we would never do and never say if we actually had to face somebody and look them in the eye. So this is trolling, this is cyberbullying, this is flame wars and comments threads and things like that. And I'm not going to go dark like he does in the piece, because it gets a little bit dark. There's some really bad stories out there. But I am going to start with my favorite line from the piece, which is this. As communication and exchange come at a remove, the flight back to the face takes on a new urgency. As communication and exchange come at a remove, think about all those messages that you're sending out every day, whether it's automated or whether you're clicking send. These are some of your most important and therefore most valuable messages. You have a lot riding on the outcomes of these, and yet you're entrusting it over and over again to a form of communication that's short on differentiation, short on personality, and short on clarity. This is all those typed out text emails, text messages, and even so many of our social media comments. Same black text on the same white screen, sometimes with a little emoticon punched in. Why do we do that? To make it clear what we meant. Am I serious or am I joking? Sometimes we do it just to add a little bit of levity or personality. It's really just a substitute for the absent human face. And of course, it hasn't always been this way. Humans have been speaking to one another. We've had spoken communication for 150,000 years. I've seen higher estimates than that, but we'll go with 150,000 years. And almost that entire time, it's exclusively face-to-face. It's only been in the past handful of generations that we could transmit our faces and transmit our voices through technology across time and distance. And of course, time and distance are the two things that keep us apart. So 150,000 years of looking each other in the eye and speaking to one another. How long have we been writing? 5,000 years. But that's 1/30 the amount of time. But almost that entire time, almost the entire human population was completely illiterate. It was only about 500 years ago that literacy really spread through the developed world and around the rest of the world to be predominant. And so if this is all the time that we've been speaking to each other face to face as a species, this is about all the time that we've been writing in order to connect and communicate and share our thoughts and create opportunities for ourselves. It's not as natural to us. It's not as fundamentally human. And frankly, I don't know about you, but I'd say on average, we're not very good at it, right? And so what we're left with is messages that have us misled as recipients and misunderstood as senders. And we can do better. Good news. The human face has a language all of its own, and we all speak it the exact same way. Human facial expression of emotion is both universal and innate. It's universal. There's a really rich body of research here. Different researchers at different institutions and universities on different continents and different countries, different cities, different research methodologies, different research participants, different decades. These span a wide amount of time. And despite all these differences, it all comes down to 7 human emotions expressed the exact same way through our faces. And this is my son, and some of those expressions are non-standard. In addition, it's innate. We all do it naturally from birth. This is not learned behavior. We don't look at other people's faces to learn how to express emotions on our own faces. We write these expressions to our faces and read them from other people's faces naturally from infancy. Some of the research I looked at had blind and sighted people, and they compared their facial expressions of emotion. A blind person expresses emotion through his or her face statistically identically to the way the rest of us do. This is not learned behavior. So we all do it naturally, and we all do it from birth. And of course, the eyes have a really powerful component to the facial expression of emotion. French phenomenology and contemporary neuroscience don't agree on very many things. One thing they do agree on is this idea that awareness of the self is preceded by recognition of the other. And by that I mean, I know myself as a human being only after and only through the process of looking you in the eyes and recognizing you as a human first. And in that moment is a shared humanity. There's a shared connection. And in that moment is the spark of empathy and morality and ethics. That's where it starts, is in the recognition of the other. One of my very favorite podcasts is called On Being with Krista Tippett, and she had a wonderful interview with Congressman John Lewis from Georgia, of course a civil rights leader, and he trained young men and women as they prepared for nonviolent protest. And one of the most important things he taught was this: no matter what, maintain eye contact and smile. If someone verbally assaults you, if someone physically assaults you, if someone spits upon you, maintain eye contact with him or her and smile. Why? To create that moment of shared humanity, to hopefully spark that empathy, spark that morality, and defuse the situation so that we stop assaulting our fellow human beings. If the face is the seat of ethics and morality, of course, it's also the seat of justice, which is the Confrontation Clause in the Sixth Amendment of the United States Constitution, which takes root 2,000 years earlier in Roman courts, where no case would advance for consideration prior to the victim and the accused meeting face to face. So this is a big deal. It's really deep. It's fundamental to the human experience. You're better in person. If you get together in person with other people more often, you told me that you would create and close more opportunities, and that's true. We all know it's inherently true. It goes back to the Attorney General who was speaking this morning saying, don't lose that component of your business. And so one way you can rehumanize your communication and stop relying on plain typed out text and automations to get your jobs done for you exclusively, right? There's a balance here, is to simply get it done. Prioritize it. The fact that you're in this room here with me right now says 2 things, among many other things. One of the things it says is that you know the importance of being here in person. This isn't a webinar. This isn't a video conference. You're physically here in person. You know that that's important, and you know that it makes a difference. The other thing I know is that you have control over your schedule. If you have the privilege of being in this room, you get to decide what happens in your day-to-day. You get to prioritize the things that matter to you and get them done. And so if you prioritize getting together in person with people, you'll get that done too, and it will be productive. More important, it'll be satisfying. one of the best things I ever read on the internet. It was written by a woman named Carrie Egan. And at the time, she was a Harvard Divinity student and a chaplain in a hospice program. And so as a consequence of her work, she spoke with and listened to a lot of people as they prepared to die. And as they're reflecting on meaning and importance and value, the things that make a difference in their lives. And so she wrote about what we talk about as we prepare to die. And it's pretty much exactly what you would think. We don't talk about how much money we made or the businesses that we built. We talk about who we built those businesses with and who we built those businesses for. We don't talk about the fancy car, the gigantic house. We talk about who is along for the ride and who is waiting for us at the destination. We don't even talk about our religion or its deity or its tenets. We talk about who we practice our traditions with. We talk about people. We talk about relationships. We talk about love. We know inherently, as I say this, I'm seeing some heads nodding. These things are inherently true. They're fundamental to a healthy, successful, wonderful human experience. And so, if you prioritize this and you spend more time in real relationship with people, present with people, you will be rewarded. But even with your very best efforts, you're going to come up short. And in that scenario, I suggest that you consider using video to be there in person when you can't be there in person, because you can't be there in person all the time. And when I say video, I don't mean scripted and produced and edited and all of that. I mean simple video communication, like using a webcam that's built into a laptop like she's holding, or one that plugs into the side, or that phone you've got in your hand or your purse or your pocket almost all the time and at your bedside table at night. Of course, it has a camera in it, and the cameras get better and better and better with every single release so that you shoot more and better photos and more and better videos and share the people and the moments that are important to you in your life with the other people who are also important in your life. And just as the phone manufacturers are competing on camera equipment in their devices, so too are the social networks competing on video features. Instagram TV, Facebook Watch are competing with YouTube channels. YouTube Live competes with Facebook Live, which competes with the live video features in Snapchat and Instagram. And of course, we've long had direct video communication absolutely free and live. This is Google Hangouts and FaceTime and Skype. Does anyone remember Skype? Right? Or newer services like Zoom. We use Zoom at BombBomb, and it's amazing. We love it. So I can be on meetings even when I'm out traveling on the road like this. And so any two people, any or more, in the world that have an internet connection and a camera attached to it can get face-to-face. And so we do that all the time. And in this way, it completely eliminates distance, right? Time and distance are the constraints. So it eliminates distance. But it doesn't eliminate time. You still have, hey, are you good at 2? No, sorry, how about 4? No, that doesn't work for me. How about next Thursday? We all go through this on our appointments and calls and trying to arrange these things. So when you want to overcome time and distance, I encourage you to record and send video messages. It's asynchronous. It's beyond time. I send when it's convenient for me, and you experience me in person when it's convenient for you. And of course, that's what we do at BombBomb. We make it really easy and fast to record and send messages from our web app, from our mobile apps, from your Gmail inbox or your Outlook inbox, from Salesforce, and from dozens of integrated real estate CRMs and platforms. And of course, we have tracking on the backside, so you know who's engaging and how and when, so that you can follow up more effectively and know that your messages are getting through or know when the best time to reach back out is. We have patent pending real-time encoding, so the second you click stop on the video, it's encoded and ready to send immediately. So it's a really fast process, and it's equally easy to do it for one person or 10 people or 100 people or 100,000 people. So that's what we're doing, and we think it's really important to get face-to-face. And so when I record a message and I send it to you and you and you, you open it up instantly, you open it up 15 minutes later, you open it up 5 hours later. On my side, I know that all that stuff has happened, and on your side, you're experiencing me in person. It's the next best thing anyway, right? And if we've already met, we're having that experience again across the table over coffee or lunch for a minute or two as I share something with you that's important or valuable. And if we haven't met, you're going to feel like you know me before you ever meet me. It happens to me all the time because I send a ton of videos and come to events like this to people who use our service. And so it's a really powerful dynamic. Propinquity is one word to capture it. And this is a psychological proximity that's built through frequency and familiarity and exposure. even in the absence of physical proximity, even if we've never gotten together before, you're psychologically closer to me as a consequence of experiencing me through video. And so we had a research project in the field with a team from Harvard Business School, and the gentleman that was running it, a guy named Andrew Brodsky, awesome guy. He was a doctoral candidate at the time, and now he's a professor at the McCombs School of Business at the University of Texas at Austin. He was trying to come up with the right design to get at some text email and video email differences and similarities and how we relate to it and all these things. And he thought one way to start producing the design would be to interview some people. So I connected him with a couple dozen of our customers. He did those interviews, and then we connected back to talk about what he learned. And on the one side, he learned what I told him he would learn, which is that people feel like they know me before they meet me. People love that I stay in touch this way, so I get more replies, more responses, more clicks through my emails. I convert leads at a higher rate, and all these other things. So I heard all those things. But he also shared with me something that he heard that I hadn't heard before, which is that the sender also feels closer to the recipient, which is a really interesting dynamic. The idea that being more honest and transparent and authentic, and some of these other words that start to feel soft in this room, depending on your personality type, not only produce more effective outcomes, right? Clicks and conversion and referrals and things. It also gives you more satisfying work. It's more satisfying to be in relation with other people. And so I encourage you to think about your communication mix overall. And the next time you click send, you can ask yourself, would this be better if I said it in person? And in so many cases, the answer is going to be yes, it is. And so you can and you should. My email address is up on the screen. My name is Ethan Beute with BombBomb, ethan@bombbomb.com. If you send me an email with a question or a piece of feedback or something else, I promise I will send you a personal video in return. And I'll just throw on there, we produced an amazing guide featuring 80 real estate professionals in the way that they're using video. We called it the Real Estate Video Influencers Guide, deep training education. So I encourage you to think about the way that you're connecting and communicating, what are you outsourcing, and what is actually better if you keep it to yourself and you keep it as a human piece of communication. Thank you.